Well, to talk about all this, I'm joined now in the studio by Weiwei. He's a Chinese contemporary artist and activist. Welcome to our program. Thank you so much for being here. So the first question that I have for you is quite obviously, if you believe the official line that it was technical problems which were behind the reason for this film being pulled from competition.
Obviously, it's not. There's no such thing as technical problem when a state sends its films outside. China always have very severe censorship. The censorship is so extreme, the West even cannot understand it. It can be one line or just one shot. Or take directors for years to pass through those censorship.
Well, this film in particular was directed by Chang Yimou, and we know he's considered to be China's official filmmaker. He was even entrusted with the Beijing Olympics opening ceremony. So what does it mean if this director, of all people, ends up being censored?
Yes, that's another thing West cannot understand. He seems as a favor of the Chinese government, but the government would never think that way. They always use you as a weapon. So if it's not good enough, they can drop you any moment.
All right. Well, the film 1 Second, which was pulled, is set during China's Cultural Revolution. Why would this topic be taboo for Chinese censors?
China the party has to maintain its own course. So the Cultural Revolution has been seen as a taboo because they don't want to criticize that huge disaster. So China not only cover up Cultural Revolution, but June 4th, the students' movement, and many wrongdoings they did. You know, when they crash the students, you cannot even mention the words June 4th in China.
Do you have a perception that censorship in China of artists, of creative people, is becoming worse, or has it been more or less at this level for decades?
I think the censorship started in the 1940s when Communist Party started dealing with the intellectuals in China. They have a very steady policy, but from time to time, it sometimes loses. Sometimes more tighter. And according to my friends in film industry and in writers industry, they always tell me it's much tighter now. Which reflects they have no confidence, the situation is fragile, and they cannot take any kind of mistake.
And yet, this year at the Berlinale, there were 3 Chinese films in competition. They were somewhat politically controversial, all of them. Could it be that these films were actually supposed to generate some positive PR for China, possibly to distract from all of the negative news of China building labor camps for the Muslim minority? But has this backfired?
I think the film has been here also under very strong censorship. Otherwise, those are good directors. They can make much better films. But a film by one director I know, for that film, he has to go through like 2 years of heavy meetings and corrections. It's almost very exhausting. Make any filmmakers feel sorry about this profession, and they send out a very strong signal to young filmmakers, how can they survive? It's almost impossible to survive in Chinese film industry.
And yet, the Chinese film So Long My Son is still in the running. It's gotten a lot of very positive attention. What is that director doing right then? Well,
whatever passed the censorship is, they couldn't think this immediate threat to the party's policy. But since I haven't watched those films, I cannot tell.
And if a Chinese film actually ends up winning the Golden Bear at the Berlinale, at least So Long My Son seems to have a very good chance of winning, would that sort of overshadow the controversy around 1 Second? Do you think that if this other film wins, will China score its desired PR win?
Even certain Chinese films all win the Golden Bear, it will still not erase how China dealing with Weiwei people, those kind of concentration camps, and the Tibetan people, and endless numbers of the lawyers and the human rights defenders has been put in jail. This is not possible. And it only reflects how Western institutions working with Chinese censorship and trying to baffle and to make the situation looks is okay.
But do you think that perhaps something good can come out of this? With this film being pulled from the Berlinale, all of this discussion about it, all the speculation that it's because of censorship, could this in fact have the opposite effect and that people actually go out and find other ways of watching this film?
I think film is film. It deserves freedom. Any artworks deserves freedom. So awards should not really reflect the freedom of expression and should against the censorship. In that case, today globally, all big film industries in the West, the film festivals doesn't do the good job.
All right, Weiwei, artist and activist from China, thank you so much for coming into our studio and sharing all your insights with us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.